of sessions about career development, and this is the second one. In this session, we have decided to start talking about what happens after the PhD, right? So what to do once you have finally managed to get through your journey as a PhD student. And today is chapter 1 as in Path Within Academia. We have the pleasure to have some Marie Curie fellowship awardees with us, and I will be introducing them in a few slides, and they will be sharing their experience so we can actually have a very nice discussion with our fellows. To start, I will share a couple of slides just to start discussing, just to introduce the topic. And please let me know if you can see that all right. Fantastic. So, Path Within Academia, as we were saying, once you have completed your PhD, everything is amazing, but also you realize quite soon that you need to start making choices. And I hope now PhD students finishing are aware that there is much more than having, let's say, quotes and quotes, to become a postdoc if you are not really sure about, say, in academia, but you have many other options in other positions, research related, but not exactly in academia or other in academia, or sorry, other in science, or even something different from what your PhD path has been. So the first thing that we wanted to do to start the conversation today is to ask you what you think will be your next step. What are you planning to do as you finish your PhD, or what was your main idea when you were finishing, if you are past this point? And I think, Mel, we have a Mentimeter poll for this. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll just pull it here.
Yes, if you want to put it on, we can. Let me stop for now. So we will be coming back to this to Mentimeter a few times throughout the presentation. So just keep this connect, please, and keep an eye on the Mentimeter presentation.
So if you can all maybe scan your QR code, or you can also join online by going into www.menti.com with the code. And then once you do that, then we can go ahead with the first question. And I also pasted the link in the chat. I can also do it again.
Thank you, Mel. Let's leave another 30 seconds for answers to come through. Fantastic. Let's leave another 10 seconds, maybe. So as you can see, again, there are plenty there are different options, and as you can see, votes are a bit scattered throughout it. Of course, academia seems to be like the main possible path to follow, but there is interest in other fields such as industry and so on. So if I think, Mel, we can close it for now. We can come back to this later if there are more there are new votes.
Absolutely. I'll keep it open, but I will stop sharing
Yeah, thank you.
from here.
So we can go back to the presentation. Yeah, it's going to be a very interactive session, so bear with us.
can we know who is the one who is going to take in the government option so we can lobby a little bit for, for the.
Oh, we're asking them in the discussion for sure. So again, this is just a snippet, if you can see this. It's just a snippet about like a commentary that was published in Nature a couple of years ago about like what PhD students in the US were thinking to do after completing their studies. And as you can see, again, while academia seems to be the main aspiration, there are other kind of interests spanning from industry to nonprofit and medical related jobs, but not exactly in academia. This is just to say that when we are finishing, of course, there are a lot of people around you, potentially even supervisors, suggesting strongly a path for you, or like you having a million ideas in your mind. So what I would suggest is it doesn't matter what plan you decide to pursue and like to go for, as long as that is your plan, because it's gonna be you the one fighting for it and like, trying to get things done. So the very crucial thing is that like you know what you want to do. And it's not necessary like for you to have everything clear, like straight away as you finish your PhD, but it's very important that you give some time to have a plan for you to go forward. And this is just a very short video that I wanted to share with you about like Professor Moser, which is a Nobel laureate in neuroscience. And she, I think, has a very nice way to summarize like, you know, what should be what should we be thinking when we are finishing a PhD?
Hear it. You might need to share your sound from your computer.
Oh, sorry about that. Uh, Sorry about that. Let me. Uh, 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 uh. You know what? Is very short. So I will share this when we share the presentation. Let me just tell you what she says basically in summary. She just say, have an important question that you want to follow in your mind, but if you don't have it, be aware of like which could be the labs helping you pursue your career and like developing your ideas and developing that you think is going to be your field of interest. As in, you don't need to have those ideas with you straight away when you finish your PhD. The important thing is that you know where to look at to find people that can help you developing those ideas over time. And let's see. Yes, that is coming through. So the summary of that, and sorry for the video not playing, I will share the link in the chat and you will have this on the YouTube channel later, is to develop your own idea. Of course, you can rely on others, as in seek advice, make a list of possible choices and possible labs, potentially if you're looking for a postdoc, and just go for it, apply and like start trying to connect with the labs you're interested in. And this is just a brief summary to basically land into this chapter of today's seminar, which is like one of the options about for you out there is like to apply for fellowships and like to be able to develop your ideas in a new lab. And the main two ones that I wanted to mention to you are the Marie Skłodowska Curie Action from the European Commission and the EMBO fellowships, which are both very prestigious and will help you to develop your research within Europe. But there are many other options that, of course, we can discuss if you're interested into something specific. And today we have the pleasure to have with us two Marie Skłodowska Curie Fellows, Dr. Sopic and Wolford, that will be sharing with us shortly about their experience and will be telling us a bit more about the research so we can then come back here and discuss about that. So, Miron, if you want to start.
Brooke,
thanks again for joining. And
yeah, Brooke, do you want to be the first one or it's okay to
No,
be
you can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I will share quickly. Yeah. Can you see the presentation? Let me just go into full screen mode. Okay. Can everybody see?
Full screen now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
No
okay.
problem.
Okay. So basically, I will try to focus a little bit more on the road that led me to my postdoc and some things and maybe some type of recommendations and insights that I gathered around during my road from my PhD and then transition to postdoc. I just put several types of kind of motivational and demotivational things here just to amuse you a little bit, but some of these are really a very, very realistic representation of our life. So, is there a life after a PhD? So, first, I would like to present my relatively complex career pathway to where I am currently. And maybe some of you don't know, but I'm originally from Belgrade, Serbia, where I work as an associate professor at Department of Medical Biochemistry, Faculty of Pharmacy. But currently, I am, as Fernando mentioned, Maria Curie postdoctoral fellow at Luxembourg Institute of Health. And this is basically my timeline from undergraduate over PhD studies and random things that happen in my life. At least some of the random people I met at the time, they seem random, but this is why I always start to like to put this scheme here just to show you how some people that I met are basically interconnected with each other, and they all led me to the success of my postdoctoral period. One person that is currently not on this scheme, and I need to upgrade it, is actually Mel, because I met her, I think, in 2015 in Glasgow in EAS conference, and we stayed in touch. And basically, we reconnected in 2022 when I was in Milan, where she was at a conference with her PI, Ljubica. And basically, she introduced me to Ljubica, and now Ljubica is one of my very dear and cool collaborators that I have. And also, she's one of the most important partners in Atheronet. So I don't want to go through all these milestones in my career. I just wanted to say that if you can draw this type of things for yourself, after a while you will see that some of these things that seem super random are actually something that at one point will be very, very important to your career. So do not neglect randomness in your career. The true question is basically something that Fernando started discussing, is when you should start thinking about what you're going to do after you're finishing your PhD. Because in the beginning, let's face it, everything is focused more or less on research skills, critical thinking, and gaining more and more laboratory skills that are needed for you to execute the experiments. Of course, sometimes in the middle of PhD what is going to happen, you will hit something that I call existential crisis phase, where you will really deny the purpose of your existence and your entire PhD. But basically, I can guarantee you that you will go through this phase. And when this phase comes, I think that is the perfect time to relax a little bit on your research skills and focus a little bit more on your soft skills that are actually the one that are really important for considering what is going to be your next step and the next step in your career. And basically, I would recommend to dedicate at least 30% of your time in your second part of your PhD really developing this type of skills. And I put here some of them. There are many of them, but I would really, really stress out the importance of grant writing. If you have the opportunity to join your PI to co-write some grants just to be part of the process, or there are some courses and trainings how to run specific type of grants, I would strongly suggest to take these type of courses and trainings, because this is going to be instrumental, especially if you want to stay in academia. So the first take-home message for me, I think from this one, that you should some kind of tip that I can give you is basically you need to have very, very small steps. This was not my case, and I really suffered a lot because of it. Because if you want to jump over the stairs, it may fire you back and really things can be complicated. For example, for me, if I got a training how to write very complex Maria Curie staff exchange proposal, and that was the first thing basically that I start writing, which I can tell you is not the easiest thing to do. So it's better to go and focus on maybe smaller grants and then build your way up. Also, learn from your own mistakes. And this graph here, this mathematical representation for me is really important because it emphasizes what can you do if you really increase your effort to master something by 1% per day. After 1 year, you can see how your progress is basically going up or down if you don't choose to take this road. So getting the postdoctoral position is something that is very important. And of course, depending on your current position, this might vary. It all depends what are your previous experiences, what you actually know, what are you good at. It depends on how many collaborators you have already, and also which type of grant schemes you want to focus on. So the roadmap, it's not the same if you are coming from Karolinska or Heidelberg and want to go, I don't know, in Cambridge, and coming from exactly, for example, from Serbia, I want to go to Karolinska. Different approaches in grant writing, emphasizing different things in grant writing might be important in this case. So it's really, really important to get your training well before you start going in for this type of proposals. I actually I will not go into much detail here because I don't have much time, but I can tell you that within Atheronet, last year we organized specific workshop how to write a Maria Curie postdoctoral fellowship. We will repeat this again this year, sometime maybe in March or in April, to get you an idea how to really write this type of grant and what I think from my perspective, what is important, and how to really assemble your grant proposal, how to structure it, and what to put in focus. Also, with these grants, it's really important to understand that you have very limited resources and you need to keep it real. So there is a certain aspect of imagination that you need, but you need to be real and realistic when you propose certain things. So here, this is just a small overview of Maria Curie postdoctoral fellowship, about keeping it real. For 2 years, you have around 24,000 or 30,000 euros for research. So it's not super, it's not a crazy amount of money for life science experiments. In that case, I give you just an overview of things. But as I mentioned, next year we will give a more detailed workshop on that. And I will not go into much details here. So in the end, I just want to say that one of the most important parts of this journey is to realize that the failure is not something that really should put you down. It should be built up within your experience and something that will bring you to the next level or the next horizons that you are going to do and to perform. So I put you here the list of different types of proposals that I take over the years and that I would try to write the grants. And as you can see, I wrote many, only 3 were approved. So basically 30%, I think there is maybe 10 proposals that I wrote. I got approved for 3. So basically 30% success rate. Just to give you a perspective of what type of success you can, or what rate of success you can expect when you start working on this. And more or less, that's all for me. Hopefully, I managed to give you enough information. But as I mentioned, next year, we'll organize something more concrete, particularly on this type of proposals. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I think enough to trigger a lot of discussion in the end. Brooke, whenever you feel ready, just go for it.
Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so I'm Brooke Wolford. I'm from the US, but I'm currently a postdoc at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, which is where May-Britt Moser is from, the Nobel laureate that you shared a video of. So I'll quickly walk you through. I have some very similar themes as Miron. So I started doing research in my undergrad career on the evolutionary genetics of fruit flies, which was fine, but I was not good at wet lab work and also a little bit more interested in humans. So I then started studying genetic variation associated with gene regulation and type 2 diabetes. During my PhD, I did a lot of genome-wide association studies of complex traits, and my professor at the time was very interested in cardiovascular and lipid genetics, which is sort of how I've fallen into that area, but I've studied a range of complex traits. Around halfway through my PhD, polygenic scores started to become really popular, so I sort of shifted into that. And then now, sort of my current trajectory is trying to look at precision medicine approaches using multiomics and AI. So within these research ideas, my academic path was getting my degree. So I'm from North Carolina in the US, and I got my degree at a public university there in quantitative biology. And then the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland has this really nice 1 to 2 year kind of bridge program called a post-baccalaureate program where you can do full-time research. I started working for Francis Collins at the NIH, and that was where I did the diabetes work. And my connections are every group I've been in has collaborated with the next group that I've gone to. So after the Collins Lab, I'd met folks at Michigan through the consortium that we had. And so I chose to go there for my PhD. They also had a very good statistical genetics um, kind of focus at the time. And so I got my PhD in bioinformatics, and I was co-mentored by Dr. Kristen Willer and Mike Benke. And Kristen Willer is the one who did more cardiovascular disease, and Mike Benke did more type 2 diabetes. Well, Kristen, my PhD advisor, she had started this collaboration with the university here in Norway and the biobank that's here in the county where the university is. Let me back up. Um, in each of these steps, I had smaller experiences writing grants. So I wrote, they've gotten progressively bigger. So I wrote a summer fellowship for just like 2,000 euros. Then I wrote a pilot grant with the postdoc that I worked with, 10,000 euros, let's say. And then for my PhD, I had experience writing my fellowship um, for a graduate research fellowship. And that was a situation where I actually didn't get it the first time. I got an honorable mention, and then I resubmitted the next year after some revisions. So yes, everything Maron said in terms of taking smaller steps and building on them, and then also like you will fail, and you can continue submitting things and doing the best you can until hopefully something sticks. Um, but back to Norway. So during my PhD, I got to visit Norway for a few weeks, and I really, really liked it. And then COVID happened. So I defended my PhD in March 2021, and I wasn't sure exactly what to do. Everyone was interviewing for postdocs on Zoom, and I thought that sounded awful. So I had spoken to my collaborators here in Norway from my PG time, and they had some funding with this EU Horizon project called Intervene. So I moved to Norway for a 2 year postdoctoral fellowship on this EU Horizon project. And Intervene was coordinated out of a research group in Helsinki, Finland, at the Finnish Institute for Molecular Medicine, which is an IMBOL partner. And I had the exact dates for when I moved to Norway and when I submitted my MSCA written here because I had 1 week of eligibility left. You can apply, you can have lived in the place that you're mobile towards for a year from the application date. So if I had moved 8 days sooner, I wouldn't have been eligible to apply. But I think that nearly a year in Norway allowed me to acclimate, figure out where, like, what kind of proposal I could write that would be competitive. And I think that was very, very useful. And I've heard from a couple other people. Of course, it's a privilege to be able to move somewhere before you have the funding. But I've heard from some other people at NTNU that they were also successful after having been here nearly a year and kind of getting some institutional knowledge of like what's available, resources, and things like that. So I was awarded the Marie Curie in 2023. And I actually pushed off the beginning date of it because I still had funding from the previous project. So I started January of this year. So it's been a while since I wrote the proposal. So I've also had to sort of shift some of my research ideas. But in general, I'm looking at the proteomics of heart disease risk. And my main supervisor, Christian Vim, is who I've collaborated with since my PhD days. And then you can write in a secondment and a non-academic placement. And I wrote in a secondment at FEM with Simuli Rapati, and he's actually the professor that I've been working with on the Intervene project that I mentioned. So, and I also knew him from my PhD through like a summer school that I went to. So there's all these connections that ultimately add up to maybe crafting something that is really a strong proposal. And then the last thing I'll say is the non-academic placement. I think that was the second year in 20 when I wrote it, the second year that they'd had that. And from the year before, they had said that people who wrote in a non-academic placement had a slightly higher chance of getting the award. So I really wanted to write that in, and we reached out to folks at Decode Genetics, and that's another part of my project. So um, I have a couple. Well, this is generally what I'm interested in. Conventional risk modeling for heart disease. I've done polygenic scores, and then I'm moving into proteomics. So I'm sort of continuing the same path, but branching out to a new research area, which is proteomics, which is, I think, part of what contributed to my successful proposal. So as I mentioned, I had previous experience grant writing, and I kind of built on smaller things, smaller opportunities. I also had the chance to read a few successful applications through the university here. Um, I had done several science communication experiences in graduate school that I think were helpful towards writing. And then I had an idea that I was excited about, and it kind of connected where I'd been, which was polygenic scores, and where I was going or wanted to go, which was proteomics and kind of machine learning and some new skills that I wanted to learn. Um, there's a lot of text here, and I can share these slides later. But I wanted to point out a couple other things. I was very privileged to have the help of I guess you would call them a consulting company, Topstart. So they worked on the Intervene project, the EU Horizon project that I had been a part of. And my university had a negotiated price with them to edit my proposal, which was honestly not that expensive. And they helped me do 2 rounds of edits. But maybe even more helpful than them was the medical faculty at NTNU. Their grants office was excellent, and there were 2 women there who spent a lot of time with me on my proposal, making sure that each section had what it needed. And they even sent my section about like open science and my data management plan. They sent that to the library, and I got very specific feedback. That was like specific to things at NTNU that I could put details in that section. As I mentioned, I was already very familiar with NTNU and with FIM, the group in Helsinki, because I was almost a year into my postdoc. So I think it was easier to convince reviewers that it was a perfect fit between me and the institutions and the supervisors, which is what through webinars I've been told is like kind of convincing them that this is like, you're the person, these are the groups, like this is a good fit. The webinars that I attended were very helpful. And maybe most important, I like gathered the PIs that were in my research group to critique multiple iterations of my research plan. And so I actually spent a lot more of time on my idea development than my writing. Um, and that was very useful for making sure that I had like a strong idea that didn't have a lot of holes in it. Um, I started having serious conversations about my topic in May, the year I applied. And honestly, I think maybe that was even a bit too late. When I really got started writing, like in August, I felt very rushed. And then I mentioned that we reached out to folks at Decode for my non-academic placement, but I'd also had a conversation with another company, and I ended up deciding that it wasn't a good fit. So like, not being scared to try things, have conversations, and make sure that like what you're looking for is going to be a good fit for your training and your plan. So that's all I had. Happy to answer questions and discuss.
That was great, Brooke. Thank you so much. And I think we are gonna start with Mel and Chris leading the discussion. And I think in the first part we have kind of a bit more guided discussion points and questions to go through. And then we'll just leave space to everyone to add all the questions that may have not been addressed before that. Go
Just
ahead,
before
Mel.
we continue, I
Go,
have
go.
one thought, because previously when you presented the fellowships, you said that Maria Curie and EMBO is for Europe research. I don't know what is for MBO, but for Maria Curie, there are two types of
Yeah, yeah.
projects. There is one that when you stay in Europe, it's for 2 years, and there is the one when you go global, and it's for 3 years. Basically, you go 2 years abroad, and then when you go back to your institution, you are obligated to be there for one more year, because basically what you are saying that you're going to US, for example, learn something extremely new and bring it back to Europe. This is what they want to see. This is just, I wanted to clarify this for other
No,
people.
thank you for sharing that.
So I will go to the next question here on Mentimeter. If you're still joining the session, you can feel free to answer it here, and then we can take the discussion from here.
Yeah, I think Tons this one we can take a bit of what we heard from our fellows, but also in general, what are your ideas about what is needed in general?
I like that luck. It's true.
Always,
No,
always.
I'm the worst person today to what Miron was saying before about existential crisis. After so many years of postdoc, today is my existential crisis. My one-shot experiment isn't working.
Sorry about that,
So I'm
Christine.
going crazy. So luck is a nice one. I like it.
Yeah.
We need always a bit of that.
With the success rate in Europe funding about 2.5 to 10% for many of the calls, I think luck plays more important role than any other type of.
Yeah, with the amount of funding going down everywhere, like you have
Yeah.
like 10 pounds and they want, or 10 euros, and they want to split it in like 10 fellowships. Like it scrambles, but still they make you sweat so much.
This is something that while we are waiting for people to reply, I just want to also kind of reflect on that when you get Marie Curie fellowship, then you are also always in conversations with them, because they send you surveys. I don't know, Brooke, if you have those already, just to kind of see your opinions of things. And I really wanted to emphasize that for me, because when you read Maria Curie postdoctoral fellowship, the word excellence is like 100 times on the first page of what is required. But basically, can you really do the excellent research if you have 30,000 for wet lab biomedical research in 2 years? So they really need to prioritize things from their side if they want really something excellent. At least, I mean, maybe if you are a computational guy, and then with this you don't need much money, you just need access to super computational power, facilities, and that's it. But if you need to do wet lab, you need to do 3 transfections, you need to try these models, you need to have, I don't know, 200 patients to validate your hypothesis, blah blah blah. 30,000 might not cut it.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. It's difficult to allocate those little resources in the right place.
Even for a dry lab, it's not enough for
Even for
computation.
okay.
I
Look
went
at
into
that.
it. I went into it thinking it was enough, and yeah,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay. So even dry lab is increasing their prices.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of permissions in that area as well, like all the approvals and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like UK Biobank is almost 9,000 British pounds.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Per what? 9,000 for one testing for one hypothesis for how that works
It's
actually?
for all the data. So
Ah,
you can test a
okay.
lot of hypotheses.
Okay.
And it's for
At
3
least.
years. Yeah.
So
But
10.
then now they've made it restricted, so you have to use their research analysis platform. So then you also have to pay for compute on their research analysis platform. So then
Yeah.
that's actually really where the cost comes in, I think.
Okay. Thanks.
Mel, whenever you want to take over, we can just.
I think commitment, networking, they are most, least denominator among all of these.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I think I can, if you agree, Mel, I can put on the slide we had in the PPTX presentation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's
Because,
actually
by reading what is written here, I think that kind of summarizes things.
okay.
What
Yeah,
do you
I can
think?
stop sharing and then you can take over. And then I think there's one more question after this one.
Yes, we can come back to this one.
Yeah.
So let me quickly do that because this is just a nice way probably to summarize things. Because we're also thinking like what is needed. I don't know if you can see that. And since luck came up a lot, like all the things people have been saying, I think we can kind of put it in these different, areas. Innovation and novelty of the idea, you as a person being resilient, motivated, and having a critical thinking to, lead that idea that you have. But also, the people around you, like the mentors, the institutions, as also Brooke was mentioned, is important, like the way you fit into those places. Because as Miron and Brooke were saying, we meet a lot of people along our career and like in our journey that might become crucial parts of our, developing grants or whatever. So it's very important to nurture those relationships in a professional way, but also, on a personal level. And this altogether, has to combine with luck. But let me build on that. Luck, I think, can be also translated, meaning that you need to be lucky enough to be in the right place, having the right project for you as a person. But of course, like we kind of direct that luck in a way because, once we know what is the area we want to work on, we just kind of need to start planning being in an institute that is, able to provide us the facilities that we need, collaborating with a team that will be helping us develop our own ideas. Because as brilliant as you are, you will need to discuss those ideas with other people. So being surrounded by people able to critically discuss those ideas is very important, right? And of course, there is always the big unknown. I don't know if you guys have cracked the code for like the missing ingredient, but there is
the biggest part of the pie chart, I would say, it's the unknown factor.
exactly. There is always those missing ingredients that like no one has figured out as far as I know. I don't know if Brooke has like found a correlation in the dry lab, like with anything that can come in this area, but yeah, I will leave it as an unknown for now.
Sure.
And so this is the first question, and thank you so much for participating. I think we can just go to the next one. Do we have a poll for the next one, Melody?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, if you want to go to that one, let me stop sharing straight away. I'm being a bit slow about stopping sharing, but I'm on it, I swear. Do you want to introduce it, Mel?
So in your opinion, what are the challenges of a career in academia? If you can just give us some responses.
Hello. Is my microphone
Hey.
working?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Can I make a question or should I leave it to the end?
No, absolutely. It's a discussion and we want it to be interactive. So yes,
All
absolutely.
right. So that one image on the PowerPoint with the key pieces or the puzzle pieces that are fitting together, I saw that and I agree that, luck is more than random. You can also place yourself to be in a good place. And for example, if a person has more things than another, probably enhances their chances at getting lucky. But I wanted to ask, because right now this talk is about what to do after the PhD. And at least for me, I'm very, I don't want to say fearful, but I have so many doubts about, because I keep listening to the great stories that were told about, the past and how you overcame things and how you managed to find your positions. But I wanted to know if, for the people that spoke about their past, if they felt that the more they did in their PhDs, be it conferences, working, lab work, dry lab, whatever it may be, the more they did, if their doubts increased or decreased.
Oh, that's a nice question. If you want, I can start with my personal
Yes, please.
experience. For me, I think the center of it, at least in my personal feeling, experience, and everything, is a huge part of it is having passion for what you're doing, because we've all gone through difficult moments in our PhDs, and at the stress level, projects not working, publications, rejections, writing grants, all these kind of things, difficulties up and down. But for me personally, I never had like a downwards say vision of what I was doing. Everything that was happening was kind of, I knew that it was part of it, and it kind of motivated me to continue on. And even now, through difficult moments, or getting rejections and then not getting grants and all this kind of stuff, it's still a motivation because you still have a passion for it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on your question. I don't know, Melody or Fernando, if you guys have difference in opinions.
I would probably try and give the mic to the fellows if they feel like it, and I think you can steal some suggestions from actually the question that we just have on the screen in the meantime. Miron or Brooke, anything you want to share on this?
Yeah, from my side, this is a very legitimate question. Now, I want to start by saying that my philosophy, and I came to this place after 10 years of being, crash and burn so many times, is that I decided that I will not focus on my success. I will focus on doing my best, what is my best to achieve something, because I have a vision. I want to go in that direction, and I will do everything in my power. If these things turn out to be successful, I'm happy. But my life up till this point proved me that I envisioned so many times some paths from myself, and then life turned me in completely another direction. And now I'm thankful that that happened, that my plan wasn't the one that actually was going to be realized, but something else. With other things, I invest so much of myself in them, and maybe they didn't work from the first time, but they did from the second or for the third time. So I'm not focusing myself anymore on really on success. And this is hard thing to do when you didn't do anything in the beginning. When you don't have success, you always question your, at least me, I question myself more if I, submitted 1,200 grants and none of them were funded. But if you have certain amount of success, just as a proof that you can do it, then you don't think about luck. You don't think about all these things that I mentioned. You just focus on really doing the best you can, and then what happened. Regarding the road to this position and my kind of thinking, my line to here, as I mentioned, it was full of ups and downs, and I can tell you that after my PhD, I was so depressed. Even after I finished it, because I didn't feel, I feel like a super imposter. I didn't feel that I knew anything. I didn't feel that I actually contributed to science with my research at all. So that led to some period of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, where I just really wanted to quit the research for me. I can say now, fortunately, COVID came and I started working in a COVID lab because primarily by training, I'm a clinical chemist. So I can work in clinical labs. And in this period, I was really considering leaving academia, starting doing clinical chemistry, because I was thinking, okay, this is not for me. I'm just not finding myself in this. And at that time, COVID came, and I started volunteering in COVID lab. And we really, in the first few days, we set up the lab, we set up the protocols. It was super excited, finally using qPCR for something meaningful. And then after 2 weeks, when we established everything, it became boring to me. I was like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. So that was a realization for me, as Brooke previously mentioned. I just wanted to reflect on that and connect the dots here. So you really want to find your way through certain things. And Christina said that in the motivation is really important, and that inner drive. Sometimes we are not, at least I wasn't really sure if I'm, if the inner drive is still there. But when I taste what was the alternative, then I realized, wow, the alternative is not for me. I want to go back. And actually, after that, I really start working and increasing my skills for grant writing, and try to polish my ideas and everything that goes with it. So that would be my reflection on this, on that question.
Yeah, excuse me. I would say for me, like my thoughts about staying in academia have really ebbed and flowed. They've kind of gone up and down throughout the years. And I've just told myself I'm just going to keep doing the next thing that I'm interested in. And if that is not in academia, then that's fine. And so I've continued to have conversations with friends of mine that have gone to industry. And I will say, I guess so far from a lot of my friends in industry, I haven't convinced myself that it would be that it would feel that much more stable um than academia. Like they have different kinds of stability, maybe. Um, and kind of like the things that I look at that are the challenges of academia, I like can't necessarily find something that would be better for me right now in terms of my interests. I really like mentoring and teaching, and like I haven't found a place where I could also do that. So I'm just sort of keeping my mind open and like reassessing and checking back in. Like when I came to Norway, I said it's 2 years, like I'll go from there and see how I feel after that. And then I got this fellowship, so I said, okay, well, I'll do this fellowship, and I don't know what's next after that funding ends, and I'll just keep checking back in with myself about it.
Thanks for sharing. That was very, very nice to hear, because of course we all have a lot of questions about it, right? And I think what you guys just mentioned ties very nicely with the question and the answer here. What do you think, Mel, right? Like stability seems to be like a big link between what
Yeah.
everyone says and what is written here.
Yeah, I think so. I think also someone mentioned mental health. I think
Definitely.
that's
That
also
was me.
hard
Yeah,
to
that was
keep
me.
in check sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like mental health, I think is also a very important chapter, but in a way, I think it goes back to the stability and funding in academia in a way. I think that taking out the uncertainty of what is coming next, what my next funding is going to be. Hopefully, we are in environments that allow us to be, in a kind of, happy and healthy situation. I hope that's the case. But yeah, if we then put the uncertainty of the funding and stuff like that, struggle becomes real.
So I want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my question. The thing, particularly with me, is because for many years, because I tried to get a fellowship and I wasn't able on the first try. So I kept trying and I improving my CV and working before I even got to the project. And for more than 4 years, I worked too much, if I can say that, in the sense that I really had no downtime, even weekends, holidays. This year was the first time I took a holiday. So I worked a lot because I'm always scared that whatever I do is not enough for me to succeed later on. And that is something that is not particularly about research, it's more about me. And I rather always keep working more outputs, more quality, always improving what I am doing. But that places a tremendous stress on the body. So right now I'm trying to do less and focus more on what I can do on a healthy, basis. But it's still like looking at all of you, it's like, man, I wish I can get there in the future. That's really it. And I enjoyed hearing your experiences, because in a way I'm like, God damn it, I cannot get there ever. But in the other way is also like, okay, if they can do it, maybe I can also do it, So I thank you for sharing your experiences and answering my questions.
Yeah, there is always the next step. You won Maria Curie postdoctoral fellowship. I mean, this is in human nature. I mean, this is more like a philosophical part of the discussion. You get Maria Curie postdoctoral fellowship, and what is next? ERC grant, and then you get ERC grant, and then what's next? Second ERC. You need to balance yourself
Totally.
in a sense that I mean, I understand what you said, but for me, I really had a lot of ups and downs, and in some period, I remember when I was submitting my first Maria Curie, not postdoctoral fellowship, but staff exchange. I was working in a COVID lab. It was COVID. I was working for 22 hours per day, literally, for 10 days before submitting the grant. That was my first grant application. This is why I didn't took the same route as Brooke. Brooke had like a more structured way, small grants and medium grants and big grants, and I jumped, as I always do. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit suicidal in that sense. That really jump on big things, and without particular reason. And actually, I was working for 22 hours per day, just preparing the grant for being submitted, because I was working in the lab and trying to run back and forth, and I really wanted to submit it. And I don't recommend this. Fortunately, my wife is much more sane person than me, and she really kind of gives me the green light and red light when she said, okay, now it's holidays, now it's weekend, and this is something that I tend to do during the week. I might get a little bit overtime, not here in Luxembourg. To be honest, I was really focused and working. The environment was so good, and everything comes in place. I don't have to work overtime. But when I'm back in Serbia, I work sometimes overtime, but during the week. During weekend, I always tend to say, okay, I don't answer the emails. I don't do anything. I'm focusing on my personal, life, and try to really metabolize all the things that are happening. Because if you are always too focused on the problem, you will lose the perspective how to do things, and then you will burn out, and then it's not fun anymore. It should be fun. I mean, academia doesn't provide you a bunch of money, but at least you should kind of enjoy the things that you can, relatively freestyle of living, and not exhausting yourself to the point that you hate yourself and you are always worrying and stressed about everything. This is not the point. You need to realize that things will come or will not, and this is sometimes you cannot control. I mean, most of the times you cannot control these things. So try to relax more. The success will always come if you are consistent in your work. So consistency is much more important. It's like with heavy lifting or gym. You cannot go one time, before the beach day and rip 200 push-ups and 1,000 kilos from bench and then say I'm ripped. You need to do every day small amount of sit-ups and push-ups, whatever, in order to, and then here comes the success. So persistence and consistency is the most important part, not really being in overdrive all the time. I don't think this is the way, at least from my perspective.
That's a nice comparison, Miron. I think that weightlifting is a good example. Just as weightlifters, do your thing and then sit on a bench for 15 minutes doing nothing. Rest. Rest and then go back and try to push harder than the previous time. But yeah, you need to rest, because otherwise you cannot get the most out of your effort. And I think we just have
I just want to
Mel.
say one more thing. If that's I
Go
really
for it.
want to thank Luis for sharing this, and I think this is why we wanted to start those Atheronet informal chats, to just have a space where we can talk about these things. And yeah, I just want to say that we are really in an environment where we're very overworked all the time. And then it's important also to sometimes not take it very personal when we get rejections, and maybe think of all the factors that go in when it comes to grant writing, and maybe work on these factors, like maybe seek help making the application better, ask friends to review it, and not take it all in that I've done a bad job, because a lot of it is luck. And I'm sad to say this, because luck is something that feels like we can't really control, but maybe try to look at all of these other factors that we can control, and work on them, and ask for help when we need to, and not take it all in. So that would be maybe my advice, my limited experience.
But very important one, Mel, yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
So, Mel,
I have one last
go,
quick
Brooke.
thought. I don't remember who told me to do this, but I have a Word document on my desktop where anytime that like someone praises me for something good, or I like have a success, I screenshot it or like write it down. And in the moments where you feel kind of down, you can go look at it, and I call it motivation.doc. And I have that. So in case that's helpful for anybody.
Another perspective, also I need to follow. Can you give me just 1 minute, Ignacio, Fernando? I
Go
will.
for it.
Yeah. So for me, it's this. It's like I have this in my mind. This time will pass, and this sentence I go back, even if I'm successful. So I don't get too smug about things, but also if I'm not very successful, because the time is passing, and neither bad periods nor good periods should really go into your head and transform you. So from my perspective, this is the best way. Try to be as around zero in the emotional state as much as you can.
Thank you. So while we keep an eye on the chat, maybe, Mel and Chris, if you can, I'll put on the final question we have, the presentation I have, just because to go full circle, we wanted also, we felt it was very important to, we had the chance to discuss with these guys about like amazing success stories. But of course, we already mentioned throughout the conversation, is also about failure. I mean, unfortunately, in academia, we won't succeed every time. But I think the important thing is to know this is how it works, not take it personally, and like make the most out of all these experiences. And I just wanted briefly to share a not successful Marie Curie fellowship story, just to tie with this point. So while I was finishing my PhD, I decided like I won't tell you how little amount of time I tried to put together a fellowship and present it. Let me tell you like how it ended. It ended with me not getting it, and surprisingly. But all I learned from that experience was instrumental for me into like landing my fellowship that I got here in the UK after that. And this is not to brag or like to tell you how I did it well in the end. It's just to maybe make it clear that not always we succeed, but the important thing is that we learn from it. As long as you leave that fellowship, that grant proposal, learning something about that experience, then everything is fine, because you have the instruments to going back and like trying to apply for the next thing, whatever it is, a grant, another fellowship, and so on. So if you guys want to comment about like from your experience about failure in academia, I think that might be a nice way to go full circle about this story.
From my side, I can tell you that, as I mentioned, I had much more failures than success. And I think this is something that in research we should really understand in the early days of our PhD, that failure is 90%. At best, 10% is success, not just with the grants, with research, with experiments, with results, with everything. This is the life, that we did, that is, part of the PhD academia experience. I just want to say that you need to really be, in order to avoid to fail from your own, to be your own source of failure. You really need to be careful when are you starting to thinking about your postdoc period. And really, as Brooke mentioned, I think please learn from her experience, not mine. In terms of if, for example, in the third year of your PhD, you know that you are going to on a postdoc. Probably you did most of the experiments you're doing writing. So at that time, try to go somewhere where your mentor collaborates with somebody, go there, generate some preliminary results, prepare everything before the submission is happening or the call is open. The call is open around May. It's going to be, deadline is in September. So you really need a lot of time to prepare it correctly. Look just what Brooke did. She brainstormed on the idea with her colleagues. She had a lot of help from other parts of her institution, and this cannot be done if you came in the 1st of September and say, okay, library, please give me the data management plan and open science plan. I have to submit in 5 days. And then, guys, please do this. So you need a space for everybody, because everybody in academia are overwhelmed. So you need to take this into account, really. And I emphasize this so much when we had this workshop last year that I'm mentioning. And again, everybody was starting on doing the preparation in late August. So, that really isn't the way. If the call is open in May, you should at least have 30%. I mean, idea should be there. Everything should be decided before the call is even open, and then you just execute things, and polish. So please be well prepared in advance. That's if you want to, at least to be honest to yourself and say, I did my best. If you start working in late August until, this is what was my case. I worked for 3.5 weeks on the proposal. Fortunately, thank to God, everything worked well, but I don't want to tell you how I was working on during these 3 weeks. So Brooke's example, not my example.
Probably one of the only things I've been really ahead of the game on. I guess my last thought in terms of failure, like even since the Marie Curie, I've applied for assistant professor jobs and not gotten them, and I've applied for grants to fund my Marie Curie research and not gotten them. And so, but like both of those experiences, I felt like were very important for like getting to my next step, and I learned from both of them. I got feedback from both of them, and so yeah, as unsavory as it is, like trying and failing and learning from it is just like a process. And I think even if I wasn't in academia, I think if I had a job that was mentally stimulating, I would be doing similar things, just for like a different outcome. So
Thank you for sharing
Very
that.
good perspective.
Any thoughts from that you guys want to add? Mel, anything from you?
I mean, this has been really great listening to your experience, and it's just, giving me some hope also at times where I've also been questioning, do I really want to do this? So it's been really inspirational, and we're all going through this together in the same way. And I think by sharing our journeys and our experiences, this is how we can move forward and feel less lonely in the process. So thank you so much, and Brooke, for your sharing your thoughts and experience with us.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's nice to hear that others are experiencing or thinking what we were thinking when we were at that stage. And I think this was fantastic, but we are running, I'm aware of the time, so I think we could probably wrap it up here. And we are preparing a chapter 2, careers outside academia, and I think that will be happening probably in March 2025. We are still planning, we are still building up the panel and so on. But the important bit of information is that we are taking December off. So we will see you in January 2025, and we will be circulating about information about the first journal club sometime in December. So you know what's the paper that will be discussed. If no one else has anything to add, I think we can close it here.
thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so
Thank you
much.
so much for joining.
Because
Take care.
bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Fernando. Sorry, I
I'm trying to
couldn't.
leave. Hi, Mel, how you doing?
Sorry, good. Sorry, I couldn't really participate much because my little one is
No
off
worries. No, you know what? That's why. Apologies if I jump in at
as
some
well.
point,
It went
but
well.
I could hear the little one
Oh
making a
no,
noise, and
breathing.
I knew she was, she was needing you more than us.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
so that's
No, thank you
I was
for
just about to send you a
great.
text telling you that I was like taking over in some bits because I
Thank you
could hear
for
her.
your help.
I
Yeah.
could hear her like when the session this started. I was like, oh, okay, the
Yeah, she
baby.
breathes weird when she's sleeping, but it's kind of like a snoring noise that she that she makes.
You know what? Like we were having a brunch this weekend with like a couple of
Yeah,
friends that are just became parents, and they
yeah.
were saying the first thing like when they are so little, they breathe in such a weird way. They were like,
Oh,
we were recording the baby and and sending the recordings to the pediatrician.
the doctor, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. No, but
Oh
I'm
well.
recorded this session now, so I can upload it this in the same way that Christina did, or
Yeah, I think that I shared the link, right?
yeah, yeah, I think so. I'll find it in the emails. If not, I will
If not, I can send it over again, and just need to confirm with Brooke that that is still working fine if it doesn't unload.
absolutely. I just wanted to ask you, what kind of things do you work on? I don't know what is your research field.
I work on endothelial to mesenchymal transition in athero.
Cool, cool.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
person, nice.
Yeah, you guys are smooth. You work mostly on
Yeah,
smooth muscle cells, right? Yeah,
muscle
yeah.
cells.
I
Yeah,
I
but
betrayed the smooth muscle cell field after the PhD, but keeping an eye on it because
yeah.
I still
I
do
mean,
some
there
reading on
are,
the
I think
topic.
the endo-MT does touch upon some smooth muscle cell markers area because I do
Well, actually,
I think
yes, but
require
yeah, yeah.
some
Oh, we can discuss a lot about it, but I feel like the transition goes more into the fibro kind of
fiber.
transition because I mean, you see a lot of the communal markers, but if you try to dive into more specific smooth muscle cell features, you don't see much.
Not so much.
You
Interesting.
don't see much in that. Yeah. So yeah,
Will
trying
you be
to.
going to any conferences, Fernando, this year?
No, I really want to go. Like you guys were talking about Glasgow, I really have to go.
Would be
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
to meet and catch up and see what we work on and so on. Because
Absolutely. No, no, absolutely. We have
yeah.
to do that. Also because I think Tom is one of the organizers. Tom Goods is from here.
You see. Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, no, he's one of the organizers. Would be nice to really be able to attend. So
Very
yeah, no,
good.
definitely. And what's the name of the baby?
So her name is Emily. She's 1 month and a half.
Look at how peaceful.
Yeah, she likes science.
Honestly, you
She's
need
been
to start
struggling
earlier.
too.
Now when you submit like you apply for a job, they want you to be 18-year-old with 20-year experience. I mean, she might
Yeah,
fit into the,
I know.
she she can be like, I've been attending journal
20
clubs
years,
and
no
science meeting
problem.
for 20 years now. So like I actually have this.
No problem.
Yeah. She actually might make it to fill
Yeah,
the
maybe.
requirements.
That's very good.
So thank you so much.
Okay.
Let's keep in
Thank you so
touch.
much. We'll keep in
And
touch for
I know you're
the
very busy
January
with the,
session.
pardon?
We'll keep in touch for the January session. I think maybe
Absolutely.
Christina had some ideas of some speakers, but if not, we can find. It's not
Yeah.
too late to. It's
No, no, it's still early. I
quite early
think
to contact them.
we can leave this week just so we take,
Yeah, take a
let's
break.
leave it there for this week so we can
Yeah,
recover because we have been focusing on this. And maybe next week we can
yeah,
circulate an email. Email
absolutely.
might be easier for you as well, right? Like just to keep in touch and stuff at the moment.
Yeah. No, I'm
So
happy. Like, I'm happy to engage like in these meetings. So I think they're important, and then we're meeting a lot of nice people. We're getting like good discussions, even for the journal club parts, because I even though like I'm on leave officially, but I like what we have, what we've been doing. So I think it's fun for me to keep doing it when I can. So
no,
I
but absolutely. I know you're super busy, so whenever you can, we are so
yeah.
lucky because today, like, we needed you like crazy.
No, but it's
But don't
fine.
feel don't feel the pressure of anything.
Yeah,
Like if you're too
yeah.
busy, just
I
tell
do it
Emily to
because I
send us
like
an
to.
email being like,
So
"Mom is busy today.
uh,
Let her in peace. Let her be."
yeah, perfect.
Well, have
Well,
a
thank
nice
you so much
afternoon.
for today. Have a great week.
And you. See
Bye
you
bye.
later.
Bye bye.
Bye.